Welcome to Tuntum Network, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Cyrus. I'm back your way again. Today we want to look at something about lifestyle, which I've shared with a few people, and I think it's also important that I bring it to my podcast so that everybody can hear it and possibly help a few people out there. I want to talk on a topic which is called the biggest stumbling block to our success. Okay, the biggest stumbling block to our success. I believe strongly that the youth of Africa need to hear this. It is one of the biggest challenges we are having as youth in Africa. And ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that no matter who you are or where you are born, this particular challenge is for everybody, irrespective of your family's financial background or your education or the place you are born in. We are all faced with this one thing, and this is what I call noise. The problem that we are all facing is noise, distraction. Now, how does noise become the biggest challenge of our generation? Noise has single-handedly denied millions of people from attaining their objective in life, and I'm going to explain to you how this has worked out against us. Now, the noise I'm talking about here is not the regular noise or noise pollution that we have in the street with horns and music, loud music and all that. Not necessarily so. But anything that has the ability to take your attention from doing one thing at a time. This is what I call noise. Anything that has the ability, the capability of taking or dividing or stealing your attention from doing one thing at a time is noise. And growing up, this whole problem started from when we were growing up. In school, we were taught that having the skill set of multitasking is something that is going to be very useful when we grow up. And these are things companies look out for. Being able to do multiple things at the same time was a very necessary skill. And I'm looking back at all the successful people that I've personally met or known or watched on TV or read their books, and I see one particular thing or character that runs through all of these successful people. And that is what made me have this mind change. This one item that is almost on all of these successful people's table is they are always committed to one thing at a time. The things that we learned in school, which has to do with multitasking, being able to do many things at a time, is not regularly associated with these people, even though they are involved in multiple businesses. But if you look across from entertainment to sports to business to religion, most of these people are noted for one thing and then the other things. When they get the opportunity to come on TV or speak to public in any circumstance, you hear them talk about one particular thing, and that is what they are known for. What I'm trying to say is this. Being able to multitask in itself is a good skill. Don't get me wrong. But it doesn't make you a master of anything. At the end of the day, you will know how to do so many things at the same time, but you cannot put a finger on, say, this one thing I can be the best in doing it. And that is where the problem is. But if you look at the richest people in the world, who are the top 1% of our whole population, they are all known for one particular thing, and then they do other things also. And so that is where we should have looked at it from, instead of running around with everything and then thinking that by doing all those things, we'll get there. We all want to be successful. But the roadmap to becoming successful is we have to focus on one thing at a time. The ability to focus on one thing today is so difficult, especially when your resources are small and you need to make ends meet. You have to buy food, buy clothing, you have a girlfriend or you have a boyfriend, you need to go to school, you need to pay your bills if you are an adult and all that. So it is difficult to focus on one thing and get results, because at the end of the day, you have to do all these things. So you have to get yourself involved in many different things in order to get some money from here and there. But that is at the same time what steals our ability to focus on one thing and get results. Some years ago, I had the opportunity to go to the office of one big man, and in his office, he's a very big man. He's very successful. He has multiple businesses. He asked me to stay on and wait. He was expecting this guest to join him in his office. So this guest joins him, and fortunately for me, he's somebody I've seen on TV, a very successful man as well. And like typical of me, I'll keep quiet and not say a word until I am spoken to, because I have learned that these things are very important around rich or successful people. So I sat quietly looking on. They were having their discussions, and until the guest spoke to me, all right, then that gave me the opportunity to also ask a few questions. So I asked him this particular question: big man, what is the one skill set that I need today to make me successful? One skill set, if you had to choose just one thing. And surprisingly to me, the two of them together, they said it the same time. Focus on one thing at a time. Focus on one thing at a time. Well, it didn't sit well with me at the time, so I probed further. So I asked him, what if I have so many, other issues that I have to deal with? I have financial issues, family issues, all right, that I have to deal with on a regular basis. So because of that, I have to do other different works and earn money. Then the man I went to his office stepped in and said, you have to do what you have to do in order to stay alive and keep going. But at the end of the day, when you are done doing the things that you need to do to survive, you have to go back and focus on the main thing that you want to achieve in your future. And thinking about it over the years, I've come to realize that is very true. Most of the time, we get so distracted with all the other things we have to do in order to stay afloat, all right? And we continue doing it for a long time that it becomes our regular routine, and we lose focus on the real thing that we really wanted to do. So what he was trying to say is this: continue doing what you have to do in order to survive, but don't lose focus on the fact that you have to come back and then continue with what you really wanted to do. And most times what happens to us is when we come back to continue with what we wanted to do, we don't commit as much time into it as before. And that is when distraction takes away the ability of us, making something good out of ourselves. But consider this: how often do you pick up phones of people you wouldn't necessarily stand and talk with them for a minute? All right? You may be in the middle of doing something important, and then you see a call coming through. And this may not come from a very important person to you at the time. But most times what I see is people will answer these calls and give them a few, seconds or a minute talk. And what happens is that short period of time you invest in talking with that person, it takes your concentration on the one thing that you were doing, and then you have to finish talking with that person and come back and continue, which sometimes becomes a little difficult because you may have lost a few things in between that time. The time you spend on social media, the time you spend on WhatsApp and YouTube and TikTok and all that, it takes so much time away from us and makes it so difficult for us to focus on one thing and get things done. But I'll give you this quote from Dr. Myles Munroe. He's somebody that I have read many of his books and I respect so much. And I'll play the video to you in a minute. He said, the forest is not ahead of the seed. It's in the seed. I heard this many years ago, and it still rings in my mind every now and then, that the forest is not ahead of the seed. It's in the seed. Whatever you want to become in the future, it's not ahead of you. It's inside of you. Take a listen.
I spent 30 years studying this thing. And I discovered life is very simple. Life is simple. God hid everything that a thing's supposed to become in itself. So your future is not ahead of you. It's trapped on the inside. A forest is not ahead of the seed. It's in the seed. Your future is in you, been there all along, but there's too much noise. So once you get home, clink, remote on. In the car, boom, 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 boom. So as you come out of the car, friends, yap, 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 yap. God is saying, man, this is a lot of noise for the last 50 years. I can't even get to this person. How did God get to talk to Abraham? God says, leave your home. Let's talk in the mountain. See, the reason why you can't discover what you were born to do is because you don't even make time to discover it. Sometimes that's why God would allow you to get sick and trap you in the hospital for a couple of weeks on your bed.
So this is what I think from the video that we just watched. I think at this point we should all take some time out and contemplate on things that are more important to us, the things that we want to do in the long term in our lives. For those of you who are in school that I sometimes get the opportunity to, sit and talk with, and those who have the opportunity to watch this video, it is imperative that you sit down, you ask yourself the very important question, what do I want to do in the long term? All right. And then you give it more attention. You pour, more of your life into it and not spend it on other things which you may not necessarily need going forward. Now, how do we stay undistracted in a world full of distraction? How do we stay away from the noise in a world full of noise? You step out there, friends want to talk, you are on the phone, you're on social media, you go home, your family, you go to school, your colleagues. I mean, everywhere there is noise. It's very hard for you to, seclude yourself from the crowd and get your own thought together. How do we stay focused and not distracted? 3 things come to mind. Start by putting a limit on how much time you spend on social media. I think this is very, very important. If you have been spending more than 1 hour on social media every day, maybe it's about time you start calculating the number of hours. There is a place where you can go on YouTube or TikTok to see how many hours you've been on the app the whole day, so that you can cut it down to maybe 1 hour, 30 minutes in a day. All right. For some of you, I know you cannot stay away from it. So that will be one way to cut down on the time wasting and the things that distract you. And then maybe you should also try to change your sleeping time. You don't sleep early, so you don't wake up early, and you miss a chunk of the morning where you should have been very productive. And so maybe you want to set your timer on your phone, the alarm on your phone, so that it can wake you up at a certain time. Or maybe you want to talk to a friend to call you at a certain time to wake you up, or whatever way you can get things done, so that you can get up early and plan your life instead of waking up late and things are way ahead of you and you have to now catch up. All right. And cut down on unnecessary programs you attend, friends, meetings, gatherings. I mean, unnecessary places you sometimes don't need to go. Okay. You don't need to go. Sometimes you can just send money or send somebody to represent you. All right. So that you may seclude yourself, like I said, and then get your act together. These things, if we do them consistently, can help us come out as the youth of Africa. We need to cut down on the noise in the system. If we don't learn how to disassociate ourselves from the noise and then learn to grow on our own, we'll always complain and say nothing is happening when things are happening. There's this friend which I went to school with. He's a Chinese guy, and I learned this from him a long time ago. All right. He never came to the library to study. Everybody will go to the library. He stayed at home. He stayed in his apartment. And so one time I went to his apartment and I saw him studying facing the wall. I tried to speak to him several times. He would nod. He would use his finger gesture and all that. I felt he was boring, and then I left. Severally, I came to his apartment and the same attitude towards me. But this is the same guy, when he's done reading, he will come and spend all the time he wants with me. Okay? And I asked him, why do you face the wall when you study? And he said, I have hours that I study. I set the clock. I know every day I have to read about 3 hours continually, 3 hours with no distraction. And in that 3 hours, nothing can take away my attention. He will off his phone or put it on silent so that nobody can distract him during that period of time. He faces the wall so that he doesn't see anything but blank space. And then he can be able to read as many hours that he planned out. And I think we can all take a note from that, because we need it. We need it. The youth of Africa, we need it. There's so much distraction in the world. If we don't cut down on this noise that takes away our attention, we will never be able to develop whatever is in us. The greatness that we want to achieve is inside of us. God has embedded them in us, and it's up to us to develop it, to bring it out. It is not outside of us. So we have to spend time with ourselves, spend time with our own selves, get to know our own strength and weaknesses in order to help us make the right decisions. Thank you so much for being a part of this. This is a short one. God bless you. God keep you and protect you. And remember to subscribe and share this link to as many people as you can. Help us grow and reach the 1,000 subscription mark. by the end of this month. I'll see you again, and it's bye-bye for now.